Welcome to Rooted, Stories of Community-Driven Change, a special podcast partnership between Island Girls Rock and the Clara Lionel Foundation. We are sitting down with women leaders across the U.S. South and the Caribbean who are leading organizations rooted in culture, community, and purpose. These are the voices reshaping local power structures, uplifting traditions, and proving that the most powerful innovations emerge from deep community roots. We have spent a season in conversation with women who are building, organizing, healing, and refusing to give up on their communities. And we wanted the closing chapter to hold all of that. And we feel that today's conversation does exactly that. The W.K. Kellogg Foundation has been investing in Haiti since the 1940s, not as a bystander, a rescuer, but as a long-term partner that has stayed through every crisis, every transition, every moment when other funders quietly walked away. Their Pockets of Hope campaign and their partnership with the Clara Lionel Foundation represents something we find genuinely moving. Two foundations with different histories and different models coming together around a shared belief that Haiti must be led by Haitians, and that the Caribbean as a whole cannot thrive if Haiti is left behind. Our guest is Dana François, Program Officer for Haiti at the W.K. Kellogg Foundation. She is an economist, a policy researcher, a multilingual bridge builder, and someone who has spent her career making sure that the right resources reach the right people in Haiti. This is the final episode of Rooted Season 1, and we could not think of a more fitting place to land. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Rooted, our final episode in this series. We have loved being in conversation with so many amazing women from the Caribbean and the U.S. South. It has been edifying, enlightening, all the things. And today's episode, we are in conversation with Dana François, who is a program officer at the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, where she works specifically on Haiti, one of the foundation's priority places globally. Dana's work is expansive and deeply systemic. She identifies and nurtures community-driven change, designs and executes programming for economic development, and leads complex multi-sectoral partnerships spanning entrepreneurship, food systems, alternative financing, and capacity building. So a little bit about Dana before Kellogg. So before she joined Kellogg, she was a researcher at the Center for Social Policy at the University of Massachusetts, Boston, where her work advanced policy recommendations in support of minority families. We love that. And she coordinated a consortium focused on rebuilding higher education in Haiti. And imagine me raising my fist when I'm saying this. She holds dual degrees in economics and political science. And she is fluent in English, French, and Haitian Creole. Beyond her professional life, Dana is a passionate advocate for animal rights and veganism. Yay! She is someone who clearly believes that care in all its forms is a practice. Dana, welcome to Rooted.
Thank you. What a welcome. Thank you. I could get used to this. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Such an honor to be here with you.
And we are honored to have you. And I feel that maybe we can sound like the Jamaican air horn right after to introduce you. But we are so excited to have you and really have been looking forward to this conversation. I mean, to be fair, we have been fangirling about all our guests before
Mhm,
every conversation,
mhm,
and it's the same, honestly. So, I want to get into it, as I like to say. You have dedicated a huge part of your academic and professional life to the relationship between Haiti and the United States.
mhm.
And for us, you bring a rare combination of economic training, policy research, and on the ground program experience to this work. Can you tell us about the journey that has brought you here and what drives your commitment to Haiti specifically?
Thank you so much. Again, thank you for having me. It's it's a journey of 1,000 steps. I find myself, I have always felt that I've been deeply, deeply fortunate to have had the guidance that I've had in my life, especially in my younger years. And this
Mm,
speaks to the importance of, guiding local people, mentorship, and so on. Because I was born in Haiti and I grew up in Haiti. And
beautiful.
I felt truly accompanied from a very young age to not just think about the issues, but think about the issues and look for ways to engage. I like to say that
Hmm.
my first foray, if you will, that I think was kind of the first milestone step that I think has guided me here, along with all the lessons and learning and work and partnerships along the way, was around the early 1990s. If you recall, there was quite a bit of conversation around the importance of trade policy on economies, particularly agriculture based economies
Hmm.
for the Latin American and Caribbean region. Haiti was in the middle of that. Haiti is
Yes.
the agriculture really driven economy, especially at the time, with major production, major exports, and over 60% of the Haitian population is in rural Haiti, deeply deep, strong farming community, and
Yes.
so a deep legacy, right, of
Hmm.
farmer movement across history. And I also do have to credit farmers for contributing to paying the debt to France as well. So
Oh,
that's a tidbit of Haitian history
mm,
that speaks
okay.
to the importance of Haitian farmers. So around that time, they made it very clear that the kind of economic policies that were being promoted would have a negative impact on people's livelihoods, on food systems, and I remember being 11 years old and feeling very, very engaged around that. Very, very kind of touched, and that was with the help of school leaders and different ministries of agriculture and planning. I
Hmm.
had the opportunity to plan and host the first youth conference,
Oh,
in
wow.
my life. It was a youth conference, I think about 400 to 450
What?
young people on the impact of climate change on farmer livelihood, and looking at particularly NAFTA trade policy. And
That
that
is huge, Donna.
but
That's huge.
it really was a community effort, truly, right?
Okay. Okay.
Because again, I got the support from from parents and teachers
Hmm.
and ministers and other young people like myself. But I like to start with that because that experience taught me so much about what is required for around community engagement, what is required around um, joining very important conversation, and look to move the conversation forward. So it set me on a path to wanting to understand in a deeper way, which led me
Hmm.
to my focus on economic studies, political science studies. I studied around the world a bit, also really seeking to understand why Haiti was in this particular kind of state that it was in relationship
Right.
to the proud history that I know. And I felt a sense of disconnection because I see around me very proud and very capable people and committed people working every single day.
Hmm.
But yet, when you kind of look at the broader macro state of things, it felt incongruent. So it was
Okay.
important for me to try to understand and see where I can contribute my piece to the puzzle.
Hmm.
And this journey has led me to studying, to engaging in a lot in partnership, to doing community work, which to me, interestingly, when you have a historical lens to the context, the Haiti context, and also broadly speaking, the systems, what sometimes I refer to as the systems of inequity, to quote John Powell,
Mm-hmm.
the systems that shape the structures, you then see those systems replicated elsewhere, right? And that's the tie between the United States and Haiti. I left
Right.
Haiti because it was no longer safe at some point. I was part of the youth movement, so it led
Okay.
to having to kind of continue my studies elsewhere. And I continue to see the patterns and the ways in which history has shaped conditions for quote unquote Black communities, Hispanic communities across the US, Native communities. And that clarity for me has been part of really thinking about where and how in my work and in collaboration with everyone else, because this work is so complicated and has a long arc that we can only do it
Mm.
together in partnership. And that has been the thread. That has been the thread of my journey, my studies, my work, and my learning. And it continues to be it's what has led me to joining Kellogg. Again,
Right.
value alignment. It's a joy and a privilege to be able to do work that I care about for my home country and in collaboration with an institution and people who are truly committed and dedicated. And that
Mm.
continues to be the thread that I think has led me to meeting you all today as well.
It's been, and I love that journey that you just took us through. I really appreciate that you spoke about the layered, this relationship with the U.S., between the U.S. and Haiti. It's
Mhm,
layered, it's nuanced, and
mhm,
I know from the outside some people may question it, right?
mhm,
Because of the history of
mhm,
colonialism, the enslavement of our people.
mhm,
Like what, how could you kind of be wanting to work with them. But I
mhm,
think that the way that you've brought us along has shed some light on that.
mhm,
And you said something at the end regarding Kellogg and their authenticity
mhm,
and how they work.
mhm.
And the foundation, the Kellogg Foundation, has actually been present in Haiti since the 1940s,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Which which I think is so remarkable in the context of how most international funders engage with the Caribbean.
Mhm,
The Kellogg approach is long term, it's
mhm,
intergenerational.
mhm.
So, how has that, or what has that long term intergenerational commitment made possible that a short term funding model truly cannot?
Oh my. So
Hmm.
that question in and of itself, I think could be a conference, right? That could be
Right? Right?
could be a multi-day conversation. But I think
Okay.
what I'll share
Uh-huh.
today, and feel free to probe further. The
Mm.
first thing that comes to mind as I'm listening to you is my favorite definition of philanthropy
Mhm.
is the definition as philanthropy as love of humanity.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And that and for as you know, our communities practice this kind of love of humanity through action and service in
Mhm.
myriad of ways. In institutional philanthropy, as in Kellogg, in my eyes, through my lens, in terms of the values that guide us, as a foundation, we truly believe that people have the ability to help themselves. So the purpose
Mhm.
of our presence is accompaniment, is supporting, bridging, is supporting through resources. But it truly is acknowledging, respecting, and uplifting the leadership of people to solve their own issues and their own problems, because they are
Yes.
the experts in solving it. And it's something that I deeply believe in personally as well, in terms of acknowledging and understanding people's agency, right? It's so
Mhm.
much at the root of what is required for change. So those are the values that guide us. And with those values and the long-term commitment, I think that we've learned a lot as a foundation over those decades since the
Right.
40s, as you've mentioned. We've done work across the Caribbean in the early days, and we refined our strategy in the early 2010 because it was also part of the learning to understand that it is best to focus on what you do best and to
Mm,
focus deep and to focus long term. And we decided to partner with specific communities in Haiti and Mexico as our two priority focal programmatic focus across
yes.
the international work. And naturally, we work in the US. And what this work allows us to witness and to contribute to long term, with this kind of long term arc, on one end, it allows us to take the time to truly understand the context, to sit, learn, and partner, and truly understand what
Mm,
are priorities, what are the challenges, what is a cause, and what is a symptom. That is a very important consideration, to also understand what is the best position for us to occupy
yes.
versus being all things, right? So as an institutional as an institutional philanthropy, as a large foundation, our ability to accompany long term and to be patient means that systems change for us is so key to long term lasting transformation. So it's both looking at what are the present context, sitting with communities, and trying to meet those priorities as much as we can within
Mm,
the very limited resources that we have, but also thinking about what is required for true systemic change to happen and or transformation to happen
yes.
through the leadership of local community. And the answers to those questions that are being given by community members, leaders, partners, and history in some ways are what we try to focus on within the strategies that we've identified to then partner, fund, accompany, be a resource. And what we've seen is that having done this in Haiti, particularly since roughly late 2010 until about 2026 now, we've seen a true evolution of, and this is what is not talked enough about, a genuine evolution of major systemic effort to address whether we're looking at quality education, access to quality education and culturally relevant matter, whether we're looking at viable food systems that address
Mm,
sovereignty and that address farmers' need in a way that is rooted locally in food sovereignty and rooted in really economic development. We're seeing significant growth and change and deepening of partnerships and strengthening of local organizations. And this is only possible through very patient, long term. And it's not linear, right? There's a lot of learning,
mm-hmm.
there's a lot of iteration, there's mistakes that are made that you try to learn from and you try not to repeat. It truly is a deep partnership that
Yes.
allows us to play our part in the role that community truly plays and local leaders play in changing their own conditions.
Mm. I'm taking in everything that you're sharing, Donna. And something that kind of jumps out is the fact that you take your time,
Mm-hmm,
you listen to the communities that you are serving,
mm-hmm,
right? And in doing so, you really get to know their core and better understand their needs. And so for me, and you spoke about partners as well.
mm-hmm,
And so, of course, I do want to explore your partnership with the Clara Lionel Foundation,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
Because when people hear the word foundation, sometimes there's an assumption that all philanthropic organizations work in the same way.
Correct.
But there are some differences in your approach
Mm-hmm,
between Kellogg and the CLF
mm-hmm,
in terms of their history, and how long they've been around, and the scale and how
mm-hmm,
they move resources.
mm-hmm,
So I guess I would love for you to help us understand, you know, what is the difference between the approaches for Kellogg and
mm-hmm,
CLF, but how are you aligned as well? Because as a
mm-hmm.
partner, you must have some kind of alignment, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And how do you, Kellogg, benefit from your alignment with CLF?
I will offer a framing, if I may,
Yes,
related
please.
to how we partner.
Mm.
Rather than seeing them as differences, the way that we think about it
Mm-hmm.
is rather a continuum of in my so you'll excuse me in my economic training and kind of
Yeah.
finance investment piece is going to pop up here and there.
No, please let it.
There's a term called continuum of capital. And the reason why I
Right.
like this term, because what it infers is the very intentional accompaniment over the life cycle, right, of an enterprise or so on, so that that enterprise over X period of time, a decade, two, can truly become the promise that of what it should be for the community, for the sector, for the market. So that term of continuum is one that I like a lot, because when we think about that, the fact that communities are facing systemic inequities and issues that are historical, and some of them are contemporary. So it's a mixture of
Yes.
both. And
Yes.
because it's a mixture of both, and it's very layered, right? We're not talking about kind of the lessons of international development and policy. And there's a lot of reasons why communities are facing the set of circumstances that they're facing today.
Mm-hmm.
And related to that, then the question becomes, what is then required to meet communities where they are today to face this myriad of issues? And to me, that's where partnerships across funders is so critical, because one kind of funder isn't enough for the complexity of what we're looking at.
Yes. Yes.
It requires different, and that's where positionality is important. I think it requires that different funders with different tools, different strengths, and different gaps connect in a way where each shine in the best way possible, giving what you do best. So I'll take kind of an example to
I
build
love
on what I
that.
was saying earlier.
Mm-hmm.
As Kellogg, we are particularly, I think, great at long-term accompaniment, network building, systems funding, partnership. Because of who we are, it's in our DNA to try to help broker across spaces, right? Whether it's
Mm-hmm.
international, whether it's thematic. So it's quite natural for us to function in those ways. And we do want to be proximate. And part of how Kellogg is proximate is by hiring people from the communities to do this work.
Yes.
So then
Yes.
the understanding, the relationships are deeply personal and professional and proximate. Yet, however,
Mm-hmm.
it is also very important to recognize that local institutions, not just in terms of the solving of problems with NGOs, businesses, and kind of local governmental agencies and civil society, but also local philanthropic institutions. The ability for a Clara Lionel Foundation, as an example, who is Caribbean in inception, who is led by a full Caribbean team in many
Mm-hmm.
ways, anchored across the Caribbean, and who's also looking at the Caribbean through a very integrated lens. Even though
Yes.
our focus as a foundation is Haiti within the region, but it allows us to support partners who then are taking this work in Haiti and connecting it in a broader way to the region, because there's a lot of,
Mm.
one Caribbean in terms of context, in terms of challenges, and in terms of opportunities. So this partnership allows us to really support communities and partners in a way that broadens the space of opportunity for them through different
Yes.
kinds of partnerships, through a different kind of a deeper lens, a community anchored lens. And I think that is deeply important, because the ways in which I had the joy to be at a grantee convening, and it's something that we also value tremendously
Mm-hmm.
as a foundation and as a Haiti team. We convene our partners for over a decade now in what we call the Haiti Peer Learning Network for collaboration and learning,
Wonderful.
right? And it's something
Yes.
that CLF do so excellently
Mm-hmm.
with its partners in a very intimate environment. And I hope they'll be okay with me saying this, but I was thrilled to sit here and listen to the ways in which the grantees who were there were
Mm-hmm.
celebrating this vision to bring them together so that they can understand who they are across geographies, across bodies of work, and recognize that they're working on similar issues, that they wouldn't have been aware of that had they remained in kind of their siloed, whether
Yes.
geographic or
Yes.
thematic. And this kind of really anchored in true kind of thoughtful um, philanthropy and thoughtful engagement is what local, in this case, local philanthropy can do and can do excellently. And I think this is one of the
Yes.
things that we share with the CLF Foundation. In addition to our values, we both believe in communities owning their solutions. We both have this kind of trust-based, relationship first,
Mm,
long-term investment. We both believe in Haiti and focusing on Haiti very intentionally as part of a broader community of the region and in the broader world. We believe in and really kind of having this kind of intimate long-term partnership and seeing
mm,
the joy and seeing the promise as opposed to the deficit narrative that we know shapes so much of
yes.
Haiti and the Caribbean.
Yes, Donna, thank you. Um, it's such a remarkable difference, really, how you're approaching your support in terms of, I know for me as a child of the Caribbean, growing up on a small island, I grew up on Nevis. And when I thought of philanthropists and the
Mm-hmm.
work that they do, it
Mm-hmm.
always seems so far removed from the
Mm-hmm.
communities that they were supposed to be supporting. And
Mm-hmm.
and and looking from the perspective of recipient,
Mm-hmm.
being engaged and involved with youth organizations
Mm-hmm.
back in the 80s. I'm showing my
Yes.
age. Back in the 80s, in the 80s, in the 80s. Um, really never dreaming that there would be a turn in how these organizations approach their work and be able to sit in space with them. Like
Yes.
that was not something that was even in my thinking. Like
Yes.
I didn't know that that could happen. And
Mm-hmm.
and listening to you, and also, being fortunate enough to attend not a CLF convening, but a Caribbean convening
Yes.
nonetheless,
Yes.
quite recently, and being in the space with grantees and
Mm-hmm.
grantors and philanthropists and
Mm-hmm.
grassroots organizations and
Yes.
sharing that intimate space. For me, that is such a turn and a change in direction,
Mm-hmm.
which has made such a huge impact,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because now
Yes.
I'm hearing organizations and leaders of organizations saying they feel heard, they
Mm-hmm.
feel seen, they
Mm-hmm.
truly feel supported. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's almost as if instead of these grassroots organizations and communities and nonprofits working in silo, as you said, there
Mm-hmm.
is now a community
Correct.
amongst themselves.
Correct.
So they serve a community, but they're part of a community. And they're also being poured into and nurtured in much the same way as they are doing for their communities that they're serving. And for me, then this just leads to thriving. That's the
Mm-hmm.
word that comes out,
Mm-hmm.
where no longer is the perspective of, and I know there's still work to be done as someone who heads up a nonprofit. I know there's work to be done,
Mm-hmm.
but I can say that what we're seeing is less burnout of these organizations,
This is great. Mm-hmm. This is great news.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're able to approach the work from a very nurtured space.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the key difference because of the work that Kellogg Foundation and CLF and many others are doing.
Mm-hmm.
So the difference is being felt and the difference is being seen. And I guess that's what I wanted to say in my very roundabout way.
Oh,
But
thank you for sharing this. Thank you.
yes,
Thank you.
it does make a difference. And I do want to ask about Pockets of Hope, the Pockets
Yes.
of Hope campaign. Can you
Yes.
tell us more about it?
Yes. Yes. With pleasure. With great pleasure. Our Pockets of Hope campaign was born out of, first of all, the term itself is a term that was coined by former Prime Minister Michel Pierre-Louis, also
Ah,
leader
yes,
and father of Focal, who's a dear
yes.
friend and dear partner who in the work. And she often talks about how in spite of the deficit framing that is so prevalent, right? When we anyone who kind of Googles about Haiti, you can see lists of very kind of um very challenging news,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yes.
she was making it a point to highlight how that there are so much goodness and greatness happening across the country everywhere, and she coined those great efforts, initiatives, organizations, as pockets of hope. So it was a
Hmm.
term that was so inspiring to us that we joined in, and this idea of how do we celebrate and elevate um, the stories of the true transformation that's happening through those pockets of hope, and knowing that there are myriads of them, not just a few.
Yes.
So related to that, and because we've been deeply engaging in Haiti and investing in Haiti for a very long time, it became also clear to us that as the context is changing and need is changing, and we know that the context have gotten a lot more complicated on a number of different dimensions, it was also very important. The role of philanthropy has been highlighted in a way, I think. And I don't think it's just in Haiti. I think we're at a moment in time where philanthropy, particularly in terms of what it is and what it can be,
Hmm.
has the opportunity, I think, to engage in a very particular way, in a very thoughtful way,
Yes.
in a way that accompanies, and in a way that also is 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 comfortable in celebrating. And that's what we wanted to do. We get front row seat to tremendous change
Hmm.
across the country. As I've mentioned, we like to talk about the Haiti Food System Alliance, who's connecting 70,000 farmers to markets and feeding through
Wow.
the efforts of those farmers over 80,000 children every single day.
Every
We
day.
every day, right? 100% locally
Oh,
sourced food. We have the Model School Network,
incredible.
over 200 schools and 50,000 kids who are being really supported to have access to quality education, health system strengthening. So there's so much amazing work that's happening, that we felt that it was important for us to think about how do we, one, share that information
Hmm.
and platform it a bit so that others are aware of the innovation and all the contributions that this innovation can have, not just for Haiti, but for the region and the world. And also, then, what is the opportunity to support this tremendous change and to support this innovation and to fund and partner? So we launched a campaign as this invitation to the broad funding community, philanthropy,
Right.
so impact investing, and others, to look at Haiti as a space of opportunity, innovation, where the capital is needed to truly take the work that's happening to the next level, where local leaders and local organizations are already poised to take it to that next level. But the capital is missing. I know that you're aware of those data points, whether it's Haiti, the Caribbean, and I think interestingly across the
Yes.
US also and across Africa, we see similar patterns in data, which I think warrants its own kind of conversation, the deep whys. But less than 2%
Mm.
of funding is going to local
Yes.
NGOs. We know
Yes.
that, over 30% of the Haitian GDP is diaspora funding. We know that there's deep gaps are related to government funding. So we know that there's significant opportunity and need for philanthropic capital and the kind of innovative financing to accompany, entrepreneurs, NGOs, civil society, and so on.
Hmm.
So Pockets of Hope is that message and that platform to say to the world and to the philanthropic and funder community, on one end, here's everything we've learned.
Hmm.
Here's all the amazing work that's happening across all health, education, economic development, food systems, and so on. And we want to invite you to come alongside us and to support those leaders and those
Right.
organizations who's
Right.
doing this work every single day, so that on
Hmm.
one end, your efforts are not in vain after so long, so much work. Because without funding, and we want to be very clear about that, without funding, some of the effort dies off, right? Because you need
Absolutely.
resources. So one, so that it doesn't die off, but two, so that the systems change work. And that's the other aspect, right? Systems change required systems change level funding. That's the other part of the conversation. The systems change work that is happening can also be met with the kind of resources necessary for it to deliver on its promise. And
Hmm.
Pockets of Hope, the goal for us was $90 million.
Okay.
That I'm very thrilled to say that we were very happy with where we are. Official announcement would come out soon. We've
Oh my goodness. Oh, are we almost getting an exclusive, Donna? Are we almost?
Almost.
Okay, okay.
Official exclusive when we announce officially, but we're very, very happy. Um,
Oh,
we have over 17 amazing organizations who've come
yay.
and said, you know what, we agree. We're doubling down in Haiti. Now
Mhm.
is not the moment to walk away. Now is the moment to do more. And
Okay.
we couldn't be more thrilled. And I think this is the power of philanthropy when we decide to engage and do things
Wow.
differently. And to your point, I think there's changes in the air across the sector, and I think this is an
Yes.
example of what's possible.
This is wonderful news that you have just shared. Congratulations on the hard work to
Thank
get
you.
there.
On
And
behalf of all of us, thank you.
I can't imagine. I was gonna say I can only imagine, but I can't actually imagine how much work it has taken to get to the point where you are going to announce some wonderful, incredibly uplifting news with regards to that goal. So I
Yes.
am looking forward, we are looking forward to the official announcement. Congratulations. And it is, I love the concept behind Pockets of Hope. I love the origin story, and
Mhm.
narrative does matter in the work of
Yes.
philanthropy. Absolutely 100%. And you mentioned that it's a collective, right?
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
collective of partners and foundations. And I know that CLF is one of those partners.
Yes.
And I'm wondering what their presence, what has shifted since CLF has joined Pockets of Hope, not just in terms of resources, but perhaps in terms of visibility, the stories that are now getting amplified, and who perhaps is paying attention that maybe would not have paid attention before.
That's a great question. As I
Hmm.
shared before, one of the things that we're the most excited about, I
Mhm.
think CLF being a Caribbean foundation, it's
Yes,
important. It's extremely
yes, it
important.
is.
We also were a very minor partner, but very important as part of the Caribbean Philanthropy Alliance conference, where the
Yes.
idea was around advancing Caribbean philanthropy, because that is incredibly important. The work that we're doing, Pockets of Hope, is truly what is needed at the moment. Yet the question around how does the local infrastructure carry this word forward in a way deeper than we
Mm.
can? Like as an example, Hurricane Melissa happened in October,
Yes.
and CLF was front and center, right? And responding quickly, responding effectively, and balancing long-term change, long-term effort, long-term focus with immediate needs. And that is what is
Mm.
required, because we cannot be so long-term minded that we are not meeting the needs of the present, right? Because people need
Yes.
support today and communities need support today. And CLF, as one of our Pockets of Hope partners, has taken that and giving it a different texture, right? As a Caribbean foundation who is deeply sitting with community, who's able to go on the ground and see
Mm.
firsthand what is happening, right? After Melissa, to then attest to what is needed. And I think one of the things that they do excellently well is what are some of the immediate kind of response
Yes.
that they can do that addresses that's bridging between, as an example, if we've had a conversation around whether it's mobile clinics, whether it's around
Mm.
supporting kind of the food needs, but through farmer effort. So this kind of very thoughtful, very proximate response that only I think local institution, and in this case including local philanthropy, can do, is definitely one of the great strengths of a CLF, and also the leadership, because again I think it's important that we see the team of CLF is extremely proximate, knows the region, have the
Yes.
relationship, deeply understands the issues. So the pace at which they're able to respond and respond well and respond in proximity is one that mirrors our own in terms of values, but they take it much further because we don't work across the Caribbean. So Haiti is now
Mm.
CLF truly part
Yes.
of the larger
Yes.
Caribbean community, and our grantees and partners that they support are part of a greater community where they can exchange and collaborate and dig deeper around things that affect the region.
I really love that. And I love the fact that, we've come back to that almost the one Caribbean
Yeah.
pre-conversation that we had before we started to record. And this
Mhm.
is such a beautiful whole example of that,
Mhm.
where CLF are now being able to amplify your work and
Mhm.
contribute to
Mhm.
pockets of hope, not just in Haiti, but the broader Caribbean. And that is nothing short of magical in my books, in my world, right?
Indeed, indeed.
Um, and with so much impact, truly. So I think, Dana, a lot of your work focuses or centers on, I should say, economic security for families,
Yes.
entrepreneurship, food
Yeah.
systems, and alternative financing. When you think about what genuine economic sovereignty looks like for Haitian communities, what does that vision actually look like on the ground?
Oh my, it's a beautiful question. It's a
Thank
it's a
you.
rich tapestry, right? In terms of
Mm,
what, because it's a dance between what is and what is possible. And
yes.
right, and how do you kind of metabolize both in the present? And what we're seeing, we know that Haiti is a very IT, to kind of say it in Creole. Haiti is
Please
a very
teach me how to say that properly. I have been saying it for years, not knowing if I'm pronouncing it correctly. IAT?
Haiti. I
IAT.
Yes, yes.
IAT. Okay.
So very deeply agricultural, for a lot of different reasons, historical
Mm,
reasons, cultural reasons, but also socioeconomically.
mhm,
Unfortunately, we know that globally, not just in Haiti, globally, smallholder farmers face particular challenges and systems that tend to want to look at more industrialized kind of systems of production in
mhm.
farming. So smallholder farmers face a number. Their smallholder farmers are responsible for most of the food produced, yet receive the least funding and the least support, and are also at the front line of environmental conservation, preservation,
Yes.
and so on and so forth. And this is also very true for Haiti. And we know that smallholder farmers are an aging population, where younger people, because they're seeing all the difficult return on investment, the younger people are not necessarily joining agriculture. So the world is facing a significant challenge in terms
Mm,
of our future related to food. So that's something that collectively we do have to solve for. In Haiti, what that means is it means that the systems of production on any given value chain, whether you take grains, whether you take fruit, vegetables, what have you, requires significant investment so that the
mm.
farmer is not responsible. And I think it's very similar across the Caribbean as well. The farmer is not responsible for everything from planting to selling, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
then the cost of doing all of that makes return on investment almost non-existent. And with climate change, there's tremendous threats, right, to production,
Mhm.
harvesting, and so on. So then what that means, it means that efforts to address those systems gaps, whether it's the market gaps, whether it's around accompanying farmers for production, the policies that are necessary for smallholder farmers to do well, whether it's their recognition in terms of their status, the products, banking products for them in terms of funding, insurance products for them, which is a
Yeah.
very challenging issue in the Caribbean
Mhm.
context because of climate change. Ensuring crops and production is a very challenging issue. But these are all the things that are necessary, so that one, we have food, but so that the people who are producing that food are well, and they're doing it well, and
Yes.
they're doing it in a dignified way for themselves and their families, and so that we also have an environment and that we can all rely on for future generations. So those efforts around supporting the gaps that I've mentioned, are things that I see happening. I see tremendous energy around small business development. Haitians are known to be entrepreneurial, for different reasons, some of it very constructive, but some of it also out
Mm.
of necessity. I think it's important to say that.
Yes.
uh,
Name it.
right, it's very important to say that not everybody
Mhm.
wants to be an entrepreneur, but when there aren't many jobs, you kind of have to face that reality and provide for yourself. So it's important to name that, but yet Haiti truly is as well a country of entrepreneurs who also need tremendous accompaniment in terms of the capital, the resources,
Yes.
the services, simple things such as patenting, such as legal
Hmm.
registration. These are all important because if a business is not formal, then your ability to command formal resources in terms of funding is extremely limited, even in the best of circumstances. So the effort around accompanying small businesses, so that they are strong, they have access to capital, the importance of really thinking about different kind of financing. What are the models where we can meet people where they are in terms of providing capital and funding for the entrepreneur as a leader who is learning how to run and build a business, but also for the businesses themselves, right? In terms of the ability of that business to grow, to solve problems, to provide services, and then to create jobs.
Mm.
We know that economic development, truly the bedrock of economic development is small business development, because small businesses are the bedrock of community fabric and community economic resilience
You
beyond
know
the.
what, Donna? I
Yes.
would love you to say that again because it's something it's something that I feel a lot of people have not acknowledged
Hmm.
and do not value. And I say a lot of people, I'm generalizing,
Yes.
and that's unfair. That's actually unfair. But I
Hmm.
would say there are many people
Hmm.
throughout the Caribbean who do
Hmm.
not truly acknowledge the contribution and the value of our small businesses.
No, they small businesses. Small businesses are truly the bedrock of community economic
Yes.
resilience and community thrivings across the board. Because if you think about the economics of it, right? If you think about the fact that at the very basic, people need resources to
Hmm.
then be able to live their lives, right? And
Yes.
pay taxes and send their kids to school and so on and so forth. So the ability to have dignified
Hmm.
jobs are created by businesses,
Yes.
by businesses, right? Small, medium-sized enterprises. And I
Yes.
think that as in everything, I think values also matter. I'm personally am a big fan of the idea of social enterprises, the idea
Yes.
of wanting to provide services as a business, but to also do it through values that are constructive is something that I think is aligns with our vision. But also,
Mm.
personally, as somebody who's been in the field for a very long time, I think it's important. I don't think
Yeah.
it has to be an either or. I
Yes.
small businesses can solve issues and do it in a way that truly is a value add when you do the
Yes.
complete analysis. So we're seeing a lot of that in Haiti, but again, the capital is needed to meet those entrepreneurs where they are, who
Hmm.
are doing the work day in and day out. And what I'll close with that I'm the most excited about is that so much of that women and young people are leading tremendously, tremendously. But yet again, women and young people have particular set of circumstances and particular inequities against them that
Hmm.
require very thoughtful accompaniment, that similarly to smallholder farmers, that require very intentional accompaniment. Because as an example, when we think about women and we think about, unfortunately, what happens when sometimes women grow in terms of their economic power, sometimes
Hmm.
they can be subjected to violence, right? So
Yes, because of that. Yes.
exactly. So we have to think about these issues in a way that meets the realities, so that people can truly do well and thrive. And when people do well and thrive, along the lines that we've been discussing, then communities evidently do well and thrive.
Yes. And I am going to take it one step further. I'm going to say when women and girls thrive.
Indeed, indeed,
Okay. When women and
indeed.
girls thrive, the
Indeed.
extended community then thrives.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Wonderful. I'm so happy we agree.
No, we absolutely do. We absolutely
Yes.
do. We
Yes.
absolutely it's uncontested. We know
Yes.
it anecdotally, we know it through the studies. It's uncontested and absolutely.
100%. 100. So, Donna, we're getting towards the end of the conversation, and it would be remiss of me. There's still so much that I feel we can talk about, but it would be remiss of me to not speak about the fact that you are indeed trilingual. Okay? I feel this is very important because
Yeah.
you have lived and worked across cultures,
Yes.
and you have dedicated your free, and I say free, time to animal rescue and advocacy.
Yes.
What does that breadth of care and commitment tell us about Dana and the kind of person and practitioner that your work in its entirety requires?
Wow. I will share.
Hmm.
But I think that in some ways, oftentimes, some things are more visible from the outside looking in. But I'll
Okay,
share. I'll
okay,
share from
fair.
my reflections. Right. I think
Yes.
I was very surprised, pleasantly surprised, to hear you in the beginning of the conversation frame when you talked about my um, commitment to veganism and animal care and advocacy, and you frame
Mm,
it in terms of care, and that is correct. That is correct. I think for me, a through line throughout my life is care and
mhm,
is compassion, is intentionality. I think in many ways, I I do feel that my heritage in many ways,
mhm,
as for me, when I think about what it means to be Haitian and what it means, this idea of freedom and this idea of dignity, and kind of the respect of life. For me, this sense extend to life, all life forms. It's a
yeah,
sensitivity that I've always had. Anyone who's known me for a long time will share this with you. And the more that I continue to do this work and realize the impact of the importance of intentionality, how much good we can do in the world with care, compassion, and intentionality, I try to my best to contribute that in in all of the ways that are afforded to me, to see how our world can become one of a peace, of thriving, and dare I say, of love, because I think love as an action, not just as this idea, but love as an action in terms of
yes.
what animates our decisions and our behaviors and how we show up and why we do things, is something that I try to align and be very intentional. My parents have this saying, I was we were raised that way. My parents have a saying that your life should be one. And what they mean by that is, as much as you can, your life should be a reflection of who you are and your values, and where you need to make corrections, you make corrections until such time where they're aligned, because then the ways in which you show up is much more impactful and powerful, because it comes from
Mm,
a place of oneness and a
I
place of
love that.
simplicity.
Yeah.
That is what I try to emulate, and I think there are many great figures in our lifetime, Haitian, non-Haitian, who their authenticity has been so powerful that they've reshaped how we think about many things, and they've
Mm,
left us legacies that we are all trying to live up to, and they inspire me. They inspire me a lot,
mhm.
in many ways. I hope that answered your question.
It absolutely does. Yes. And I love your parents' concept of oneness
Hmm.
and how that threads everything together. Like, be
Hmm.
who you are in all aspects of your life,
Hmm.
right? Show
Yes.
up as yourself, in your work wheelhouse, your personal life, all of those things. And yes, absolutely, the impact of that goes beyond. But also, I think there's a sense of ease in how you navigate all your worlds. If
Hmm.
if
Mm,
who you are is who you are, no matter where you are or what you're doing.
very much so. I will also share
Mm,
as and it's a journey, right? It's a never
right.
journey of growth and learning. I will also share that in many ways, and that's where the conversation around women leadership and to me
Mm,
is such an important piece, because it also requires requires courage, I
Oh,
think.
yes.
Um,
Yes.
right? Because it doesn't, showing up doesn't mean that there's reception, and that's okay, right?
Yes. 100%.
Um, it's okay. It's recognizing that that is part of all of it and accepting it and kind of managing it. But I'm sharing this piece particularly for young women leaders, if any are listening to this conversation,
Mm,
is to not be discouraged and to trust, and even sometimes there may not be any reflection back that, oh my God, this is the right kind of path, or if the values, checks align, and what is being done is good, and so on. And I think to your point, trusting the intent and action, and trusting that oneness, and trusting that sometimes the reception doesn't mean that one should not show up in this way. It just means that it's
mhm.
just not time yet, and it's okay. And part of doing change work is living in the in between, and living in the friction, and accepting that that friction sometimes can feel difficult, but it doesn't
Yes.
mean that it's not the right thing to do.
Yes. It doesn't mean that it's wrong,
Yes.
right? And you're right. It does take courage. You must be brave. That is the only way. And also, I just wanted to, and I love that message that you've shared for our girls and women, not just in Haiti, but across the
Mhm.
Caribbean. And to your point, yes, they are listening. They listen and they watch. And I think from that also, apart from your encouragement and apart from, or also with things not being easy,
Mhm.
but to go forth anyway,
Yes.
know that you don't have to go forth alone,
Indeed. Indeed.
right?
Indeed.
Find your tribe,
Find your
find
train.
your
Yes,
community.
I couldn't have said it better.
Yes, because they're there. They're there. There's nothing, we all have our personal experiences, of course. But within that personal experience is someone who has also gone through that journey,
Indeed. Indeed.
right? So find
Indeed.
your tribe. Thank you so much, Donna, for your time today. I loved your perspective, um, the economics. I think that was so powerful because we've had these conversations, and each one, I think, even for Brianna and Brianna is our producer of this podcast. We have learned something from every single conversation. And it has been so wonderful to close out this series with you. And in that, I think my final question is, what feels for you most important to carry forward from everything that your partnership with CLF
Mhm.
represents? What would you want our listeners across the Caribbean and its diaspora to take with them from our conversation today?
It's essentially what you've said earlier when you talked
Mm,
about community. This work is a team sport. It truly is a team
mm,
sport. Um, and it requires us coming together across differences and across similarities, to because again, the change and the context, social change, economic change,
mhm.
requires tremendous effort, and long-term commitment, and at multiple levels, right? Immediate needs, long-term needs, and that requires truly coming together to
Yes.
share, learn from one another, avoid replicating mistakes, and avoid
Mm,
duplicating effort, seeing where we fit the best possible. We don't all do similar things, and we shouldn't, and we don't have to. But I think we can come together to figure out what specific piece can I bring to to this broader conversation, and what can I learn from you, and what can we together do in a way that truly meets the promise to communities. I think that that is my final message. This work is tremendously rewarding because change happens every single day, big and small, and change is possible. I think what sometimes is a gap is that the resources needed to meet that change at the right time is sometimes missing. And sometimes we lose momentum because of that, if I can be very candid. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so I think the intentional partnership to come together as funders, and I'm using the word funders intentionally because it's not just grant making institutions. It's folks in the innovative finance space. It's impact investors. It's local regional banks. It's really is kind of all the kind of capital providers, because we're looking at civil society in a broader way, whether we're looking at businesses, we're looking at education needs, health needs, and so on. There is an opportunity for everyone, as long
Yes.
as we're doing it intentionally. We're not here to replace the voice, power, and leadership of local organizations and leaders. We're here to accompany, but intentionally coming together to accompany and to try to meet resources where the gaps are. I think sounds it's a simple but important and complex proposition, but I think necessary. And perhaps my bias in terms of my as an economist and somebody in the financial sector will show, but I think capital and I think resources, they're not everything, but they're important.
Yes.
And capital providers, funders coming together intentionally to accompany, in our case Haiti, which is where we're committed, but as this message is going out to the region, it would be my final message, and why the pockets of hope for us was so important.
Mm. Dana François, thank you so much for your time with us today. It has been an absolute pleasure.
The pleasure is all mine. The honor is all mine. Thank you so much. And thank you for your work. You talked about learning every time you listen to this episode, but thank you for making those reflections available to all of us, because there's so much more to learn from one another. And thank you for your work and your leadership and your courage as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. And I will not cry on this podcast.
Tears of joy.
Oh
Tears of
gosh, tears of joy. Thank you. You've been listening to Rooted, Stories of Community Driven Change, a limited edition podcast series from Island Girls Rock and the Clara Lionel Foundation. You can find us wherever you get your podcast fix.